I know it's a little early for Chris. I see him stifling a yawn, so we're not going to waste any of his time. So again, give me a hashtag leads, help us push this into as many people's feeds as possible. And I want to just share a quick story of how I came to know Chris and how our relationship started and really where it is today. So Chris and I are a part of a mastermind group. And for those of you who have not invested in coaching or masterminds or anything that really allows you to come into a group of like-minded professionals who are all aligned on the same goal, let me tell you, if there's one investment you can make that will be a huge difference maker in your business and the speed at which you can reach your growth goals, investing in coaching and masterminds with the right coach makes a huge, huge, huge difference. And some of our Dream Firm leaders, as part of our Create Your Dream Firm program, I know for a fact can attest to that. So if you're looking to do that with Entrepreneurial Accountants, I'd love to be part of that process with you. So anyway, point being is we do that with our clients at a very high level. That said, don't ever invest in a coach who does not invest in coaching. So Chris and I met in November, I believe, maybe a little bit before that of last year at an event known as Digital Insiders that is run by Julie Stoian, one of the major faces of the ClickFunnels platform. And she's moved beyond even ClickFunnels at this point. And she had a room of, I guess, about maybe 40 to 50 entrepreneurial pros like Chris and myself, digital marketers, people who understand digital marketing well. And one of the cool things about Julie's group is Julie knows that there's a lot of expertise inside of her members, inside of the people who choose to participate. And so what she does is she gives them an opportunity to showcase their expertise. Now, we had Kristen Ingram on before. Kristen is a fantastic expert in the accounting, bookkeeping, and tax space. And another individual who was able to give a presentation is none other than the wonderful Chris Wyatt, who is with us today. And when you think about the fact that there is a room full of people who are all about digital marketing, and then there's one guy who says, I can teach you something about Facebook ads. It's a pretty ballsy thing to say, right? And I'm like, no way. I'm like, nah, this guy don't know what he's talking about. Like, forget it. Like, we're all pros in here. Hubris, I tell you. And so then this guy gets up here. And when I tell you at the end of his 20 minutes, 25 minutes max, first of all, people were begging for him to keep going. That's how many knowledge bombs he dropped on this group of professional digital marketers. And on top of that, everyone's jaws were like this. And I was like, I gotta find a way to convince that guy to become a part of Dream Firm. So long story short, Chris knows his stuff. He is an awesome person. And the way I like to refer to Chris is looking like Tom Cruise, but got a brain like Rain Man. The guy just knows his numbers. Math is the path. And having success on Facebook ads is all about being able to understand the numbers and much beyond that: strategy, marketing, conversions. But it's a pleasure to be able to work with Chris. And I'm going to give Chris the opportunity to introduce himself, tell us a little bit about his background besides just my anecdotal story about how he just rocked our world. So Chris Wyatt, welcome to the Proactive Facebook community, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for that intro. I'm going to have to hire you as my hype man. This is recorded, right? I can take this excerpt and use this in an advertisement later on.
Absolutely.
So background, I started the digital marketing, kind of marketing as a whole realm in 2007. And I did a bunch of other things for a few years, building websites, learning WordPress, getting into SEO, which some of you guys know about. And it just takes much longer, and it's a much harder sell to tell people, hey, in 6 months from now, you're going to be in a place to where you might get a little bit of traffic. And then in 12 months from now, you might be in a position where you get a little bit more than that little bit of traffic. And then maybe in like 2 years, if they don't change the algorithm, maybe you'll be like in the top 3 of Google for your term for your local market. And then like, maybe then you'll get some leads and some clients, right? Like it was an uphill battle trying to sell that. Because to be honest, we want to be able to spend money in marketing and be able to get some traffic, some leads, and some clients from that right away. So it's like, okay, well, I love numbers, and I want to get leads right away for people. So I transitioned after, around 2013, 2014 into paid advertising. I haven't really looked back since then. And I've managed about $24 million in ad spend. I have been able to audit and see the strategies behind over about $350 million worth of ad spend over the last 6 years. So if I was able to recalculate, it's probably a bit more than that. So we're talking about more than $250 million in ad spend, close to $500 million in ad spend that I've seen in my career across multiple platforms. Facebook as a platform, which has Instagram and Facebook, Google, Bing and Yahoo, and some platforms that don't even exist anymore. I've been able to advertise on those as well. So that's my background. I've been able to do it for small budgets, been able to do it for big budgets and everything in between. And at the end of the day, if somebody was to check me out on LinkedIn or anywhere else, the thing that I always talk about with advertising is it really ends with one word, which is profit. And that's all I really care about when it comes to advertising, is how and much profit that I'm generating for what I'm spending. And so that's me. That's my background. It's the short story of the last 13 years of progress and experience leading into what I'm doing now with lead generation and sales generation with paid advertising online.
So needless to say, we've got a wealth of experience to pull upon here to get into the minds of our prospective members of the group. And I just want to summarize again here. Essentially 25 million in ad management, and then another how much up and above that in terms of like what you've analyzed and seen?
Over at least $350 million worth of ads.
Okay. So I just want to I want to make sure everyone heard that, because one of the toughest things I feel most people run into is there's so many people who go, oh, I can do Facebook ads, right? I can do it. Or, I'm the guy, I'm the new guru. I created the Facebook banner image that says I'm the guru. And it's hard. Like, I think it's really hard for us to know who to trust and really how to gauge whether or not we should be willing to invest our time and money into their expertise. And the best way to be able to do that is know someone who has gotten tangible results in your space and also has those types of accolades. Like, that's just incredible. So let's go ahead and dive in, Chris. Again, thank you for your time. If you're catching us, #leads down below, and we're going to give you one of our top converting Facebook ads video scripts. And so one of the questions, and this is a great one from Ben Dangle. Ben wants to know about targeting niches, right? And needless to say, I work in a niche, Chris. I work directly with you. So what are the ways in which people can be able to target niches more effectively now that some of the things that were a part of Facebook ads, perhaps over the last couple of years, have been a little bit stripped away from the platform? What's your new approach to being able to do that successfully?
Yeah, so I did see this question prior, so I did get kind of prepped to think about like the angle which I try to put myself in your shoes, and and by your shoes, anyone who's a accountant, tax planner, bookkeeper, finance pro, handling somebody's books. And I was like, man, if I was looking for someone who could pay me, there's several things here, right? So I know a lot about your guys' business and what the needs are of the people asking these questions. They want what everyone wants, right? Like they want to get high-paying clients who can pay their fee, $500,000 a month without trying to nickel and dime them into like, well, this guy's, can do it for $300 a month, right? Like, and I've got 15 accounts that need to be reconciled. And you're like, $300 a month for 15 accounts to be reconciled a month? Like, come on now, like this, what are you talking about? So I was like, man, like who would I target? How would I target to try to find people who are like that on Facebook? So I got to thinking, and sometimes these interests and these targets are a little outside the box. So like, you got to ask yourself, and you've done this, I was like, I have this creative brief that really puts you in the mindset of your ideal customer. Like, where do they hang out? What books do they read? That type of thing. Well, I find I'm actually kind of your target demographic of individuals. Has business, needs books done on a regular basis, needs my quarterlies, needs my tax taxes planned out for me. You send the payment, help me understand how much I need to send to the guys every quarter, annually, help me plan that out based on my revenues and based on my growth path and that type of thing. And I was like, man, like what can we target? Well, the one that to me is the most obvious that most people probably don't target is like targeting people who understand and have interest in like QuickBooks, who like Xero, who like FreshBooks, who use those types of softwares. Because if you use those types of softwares, you're slightly educated that you need them, one. Two, you're paying for something like that as a software or a service that is in and around needing to get that done. So I would target people who use those types of platforms for a service, because the ones that I just labeled are ones that I use. I use QuickBooks. I have used FreshBooks. I have used Xero, or I looked into Xero. I don't use it. 17 Hats is another one that I know a lot of people use. And so you start to like look into these softwares or tools that are around like business planning, business finance, and you start to ask the question, okay, what tools are they using that I could target to where there's a gap between, okay, they're educated enough to know that they need the service, right? Because what's hard is people try to target people who are their ideal customer as far as like income or revenue, but maybe they like don't really need the service, right? They already have somebody. You're trying to find the gap of people who need it and also want it and are also trying to get back their time. Like me, like I want somebody to do the books and know that it doesn't mentally take my space. Like I could do my own thing. I could do it in QuickBooks and I could upload the file. I'm good with numbers. I know all those things, right? But I'd rather not do it. I just don't have the brain capacity to do it. I don't care. But I know it needs to be done, right? So if you can find me and get a message in front of me, and here's another thing about targeting. The targeting is only as good as your message. We've talked about the 4 M's, and I'm going off a little deep on this question, because the audience is only as good as the thing that you're saying to them, right? It's the 4 M's of marketing, and I'm actually expanding this out to several others, but right now it's message, market, moment equals money. So what's my message? What am I saying to that market, to me? So if I'm on QuickBooks, what are you saying to me on Facebook, right? So if I'm currently using QuickBooks Online, right, the small self-employed version, right, because they have multiple versions, what are you saying, right? Well, I want my time back. I don't want to have to worry about it. So I want my time back, and I don't want to have the mental capacity of worrying about my finances and knowing that they're being reconciled, but I'm also getting a fair value, right? I'm not being charged like $3,000 a month. That's something crazy, right? Because I'm not, a multi-million-dollar a year business, but I have a successful business, right? So a fair fee, a value fee that you feel good about, but that I also feel good about. And it's taking my 2 big things, time and worry around my finances. You're basically, your solution is saying, hey, are you worried about your finances? Are you worried about not taking care of your quarterlies and on all these things? Like you're hitting my pain, like, oh man, yeah, I pushed that. You know how many people that are like me, that businesses in the mastermind, that are like, oh man, I really wait till the last minute for that, right? Because we do. We wait till the last minute, and we wait until, April 1st. You know this because you deal with these clients. Wait till April 1st, and we're like, hey, you think you can squeeze me in the next 2 weeks to get everything done by the 17th? Yeah, sure. And it's not because we want to be a pain in the butt, but because we actually stress out about the numbers, and we don't want to do it because we don't want to look at it. And that's why. And so like, if you can come in with a message to the market, the people that are using those tools, and say, hey, I have a solution. I can take this away. I can take that pain away, and you can go grow your business. You can go worry about your business, knowing that this is all taken care of in the background. I'd be more than interested to have a conversation with you. Like, oh, sweet. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So my message to the market in that moment of need, my moment of need equals money, the opportunity for you to make money. So that's how I would target. As I would get into the mind of the people that I'm targeting, and ask the question, where are they hanging out? Are they using any tools or services or anything similar to what I'm actually going to be able to fill the gap on better than what they're already interested in and already know about? Sorry.
Beautiful. That
it gets into it a little bit. I said, sorry, I get really pumped up about it, because you really got to start thinking about, you really start to have to think about the audience, and like, where are they hanging out? And then like, how do you talk to them where they're hanging out and what they're interested in?
And this is such a primer for our discussion, because what we came into this question with was, how do we target dentists, right?
Mm.
And I feel like that's such it's a good question. It's not that that's remotely a bad question, but what Chris essentially addressed here is, what is the strategy of attracting this target demographic? Like, how do we be able to use the psychological understanding of their pain points to craft a message, and then use that message to then match it to the market through targeting? But I can't help but wonder, and I imagine a lot of other people are wondering this as well, Chris, as we say, okay, great, we've got these tools. There's a large number of these tools, but I'd have to think maybe at half of the people that are liking these things on Facebook and using them as a way to guide interest, well, aren't there going to be other accounting professionals? Like, how do I actually take those tools and know that, okay, people who are interested in them, but are maybe ready to take the next step where they delegate and outsource and leverage our services? Well, how do I separate them so that ultimately I'm as targeted as possible, whether it's dentist or someone else? Like, what is it that we would maybe tier with that would allow that to be a bit more effective in terms of just weeding out the power users, so to speak?
That's a great question. I think I like to try to go as broad as I can with my targeting, and then let my messaging identify the people. Here's why. When you go very narrow, so let's say I want to go and target dentists, right? Because that's the example that you pulled up. All right, so I can target dentists on Facebook. I can target associations that they're a part of. I can target anybody that has like dentists, went to a dental school, anything like that. I can target those people on Facebook, and I can have a very specific message for them. But as a service provider who for a little while, I actually targeted dentists myself to provide lead generation for them, I can tell you it is a very, very, very small audience on Facebook. And so after even just a couple $100 a month, after probably 2 or 3 months, those same people have already seen your message quite a bit. And so I would then say, why not go a little bit broader, right? Like, why not just go to the tools? Why not go to something that maybe a market that is a little bit bigger or just customize, know that, hey, like, okay, I'm going to go after dentists for this quarter, and I'm going to like hit it hard, and I'm going to come up with a message specifically for them. And then as I'm getting them onboarded, this next quarter, I'm going to switch slightly different. Maybe I'm going to go after chiropractor. So it's still in the same realm of that professional doctor person who still needs help, but like, I'm slightly shifting to the target audience and then I'm catering and updating my copy to say, hey, you chiropractors, are you needing help with blah, 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 whatever your product is or solution that you're offering to them. And you're slightly switching, but staying in the same realm of that business professional who needs the product or service. Because when you start to go niche like that on Facebook, there's only so much. There's only, a couple 100,000 people that fall into that bucket. And when you do that, one or two things need to happen. Either you need to switch to your targeting, or you're going to have to constantly refresh your marketing angle to get people as you start to they get tired of seeing the same angle.
And I want to just, I think people are looking at this conversation now and they're saying, but Chris, but Tyler targets accountants exclusively, accountants, bookkeepers, and tax professionals. So how is that much different from targeting dentists? But let me tell you, from the relationship that Chris and I have had over the last 6 months, the amount of creative and the amount of testing that we are putting together as a team to try out our messaging is I won't say it's exhaustive, but man, it is a lot of effort to be able to constantly be able to stay in front of a niche market and refresh it. And I think the reason Chris is saying this is that creative energy can be tough to foster when you have an analytical mindset. Not to say you can't do it, but I think his main message here is that saying, hey, let's run this for 90 days, let it get its max effort, but then let's change gears a little bit here and go a bit broader, because we're going to have a much larger pool to pull from. And ultimately, we're going to be able to not tire out our audience, right? Ad fatigue. And I think that's going to bring up our next question here from Megan. And Megan's asking, well, how many ads do you have to send out? How specific do you need to be in limiting your audience? Where to get decent pictures that aren't overused? Like there's quite a few here, but I think if we just had to boil it down, I think it comes down to the creativity process. What is it that we need to be able to be prepared to do to have a successful creative campaign on Facebook? How many ads, in your opinion, Chris, is a safe number to be able to run and get some data and test a few things out?
I've shared this with you quite a bit. I say you need 10 ads to find one that's amazing, 2 or 3 that are okay, and then everything else you're going to have to turn off. So, I mean, so essentially, for lack of like using a sports analogy, because I do a lot of things with sports, but in baseball, a baseball player who bats 300, right? Who basically hits the ball 3 times out of 10 is getting paid tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in their career, right? To be right 30% of the time, and sometimes less than that, 25% of the time. That's nuts. So that's all you're looking for here in an ad is you need, and you've seen recently, like just a small change to an ad makes a massive difference in performance, right? So like when it comes to creative, you have to know going in that a lot of stuff just isn't going to work. And you can't be, here's the thing, I'm going to attack a mindset around advertising that is probably more important than the actual number around like how much creative you have to test. It's when you go into advertising, no, you're going to fail a lot more than you're going to be successful. I know that's a very general thing, but like seriously. But here's the beauty is once you find that one ad, you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on that ad and it can produce hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in revenue for you once you find it, right? So if out of 10, I like to do, so to give you an actual framework, know that you're going to set up 10 different ads, right? Different pieces of creative, different images, videos. You probably see those, fun kind of GIFs that are in the feed as well. That are like those 5 or 7 second videos that like have like animation around it. It could be like a book that's like spinning or whatever. You're going to have to do at least 10. And probably to give yourself a really good chance, it's probably gonna be 20 to 25 pieces of creative to find a handful, 2 or 3 that really, really work. Because part of it is if you're not advertising now, those first 10 are probably gonna all bomb because you're just not comfortable in front of the camera. Your messaging, your offer isn't right where it needs to be. But once you find that combination that clicks, you can actually use that 1 or 2, maybe 3 pieces of creative and ads that then become your foundational pieces. And then you allow those to be your main thing. So that was your main question about creative. What was the second? She said there was another question right after that
Overused photos.
Photos. I'm going to tell you now, stop using photos. Like, just stop. Like, please, that's 2015. Like, that'd be like me coming to you and saying, hey, I write checks for everything. Can you reconcile all my checks? I have a checkbook. What do I do with that? Do I send that to you, like to like balance that for me? Like, no, nobody uses checks anymore. Like, please stop using images. Like, we use images occasionally, but how much of what I do, you Tyler, is around like video?
I had to pull teeth on Chris to be like, can you please run an image ad, man? I'm like, and part of the reason for that is that it is tough to be able to constantly pump out video content. It is something that is not easy to accomplish that particular piece. So I think what a lot of people do is, it's a larger turnaround. And
but what you've seen is like, what we'll do is once you get a piece of a creative that you've done, we'll just drop in a different, what they call a thumbnail. And that could be an image. That could be a thing that like catches your attention up front and then like goes to the video. Or maybe there's a slightly different intro, like a slightly different design, the first 2 or 3 seconds that gets your attention, right? Like it could be like flashing bulb, like a neon sign in the very beginning that says, now starting or something. Or it could be like a cinema that zooms up and then, the curtains roll back and then there you are with your video. I do a lot of stuff in the very beginning as somebody who runs ads. I look for like, give me the main core message. Once that ad works, then I'm doing a lot of things to extend the life of that winning ad. So I'll do different intros. I'll do different thumbnails. I'll do other things to like extend it. So my point is like, yes, it's a little hard up front, but once you find one that does well or does okay, you can do other things that make it even better that aren't as intensive as shooting a new video, right? Like getting somebody to drop in a 2-second opener to make it kind of fun in the very beginning might cost you $20 to get somebody to do that, right? Like you can go to, I hate to do this, but you can go to Fiverr.com, take your video and go to Fiverr.com, right? And find somebody who literally type in video intro maker or video introduction producer or something like that, video editor. And there will be people who do 20 to 30 second like openers. You tell them, hey, I'd like to have an opener that does this. And by opener means like the first 2 or 3 seconds. And I want you to
2 to 3 seconds, not 20 to 30, just to be clear.
Yes. So, but my point is their job will say 20 to 30 seconds.
Right.
And most of the time, because they know most openers by definition are a decent amount of time. But what you want is just for them to do something very simple. So they'll have a job for $5 or $10, $15, $20. You say, here's my video. I just need you to put something in front of it that's fun and creative. I don't really care what it is. Honestly, you don't care what it is. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I don't want you to get caught up in the details. It doesn't matter what it is. Point is for it to be fun, colorful, and it needs to be motion. Those are the two big things, right? They do it, $20 later, now you've got multiple variations of that same ad, and therefore you have the ability to do those things, and you're staying away from images. Like, stay away from images. They work, but like, yeah.
So to summarize, images are 2015.
Yes.
What we want to do is we want to be able to use video, but if you want to be able to freshen up your video, the key is to be able to create bright, colorful introductions that are pattern interrupts or use different thumbnail images that allow us to use images that then flip over to the video that flip into the pattern interrupt on the new introduction graphic. And then boom, you're right into the message. And I love what Chris said here is like, remember, I said, hey, creating video, like that stuff is time consuming. But when you find one that works, extending the life cycle of it is exactly what he's talking about. And this is efficiency. We're all looking for more efficiency in generating leads. So that was a fantastic answer. I've got 2 in a row here again from Megan. Megan's just killing it with these questions. What should a Facebook ad expert cost? I'm not at liberty to discuss Chris's agreement with us. I don't feel that's appropriate. But as a general rule of thumb, Chris, what is someone like Amanda Kendall, one of our Dream Firm leaders in our mastermind? She essentially had a question. She said, "Well, what's something about money that you would like to pass on to someone else?" And mine was, if you pay peanuts, you hire monkeys. And I think it's also true for Facebook ads. You could go on Fiverr and type in Facebook ads and you could get someone maybe is okay. I don't know, but is going to maybe charge you a couple bucks an hour or whatever. And most likely you're not going to get anything for that. Most likely. So in your experience, Chris, what's a safe range to find a combination of expertise, but also a relatively sound investment? And how long should you expect to invest before you have a good understanding of that person's skills and integrity?
So I'm going to, again, go slightly in a different angle with the answer to this question. I will answer the question about the fees. I will. But I feel like there's a greater concern when you're trying to hire someone that you need to be aware of. In my opinion, the very first question you should ask anybody is what is your creative process? Do you have scripts for me? Do you have a graphic designer? Do you have a video editor? Do you have someone that can help me? Because now, I've already pre-framed this, right? You need 10 pieces of creative. So how are they going to help you get 10 segments of creative, upwards of 25 pieces of creative tested over a 90, 120-day period? So when you go into an agreement with someone, you're probably going to need 4 to 6 months time to like get something dialed in for one offer. If you're doing 2 or 3, 4 offers, you got to add exponentially the amount of time times those months to get it dialed in, because it just takes time. There's certain things that just take time. So to framework the question is you need to ask them about creative. You need to ask them, how can you help me pump out creative to actually find the winner? Because we're at a place now with the maturity of Facebook as a platform. The mechanism, the mechanics of pulling the levers of setting up the campaigns, a lot of people know that. A lot of people do. The differentiator between those who are amazing at running Facebook ads and those who are kind of like, okay, the difference is creative. It's really their creative process. And so a lot of people know how to do that. And if you're not worried about the creative process, you can probably go find somebody for $1,000 a month, $500, $1,000, $1,500 a month. If they're less than $1,000 a month, I'd be really concerned. They're probably not any good. Like, just be honest. They're probably not any good. Do not do that. Please. You are not working with a professional that knows what they're doing, at least with 6 months to a year worth of experience running at least a few $100,000 in ad spend. At a few $100,000 in ad spend, they're probably charging at least $1,000 a month, right? If they've managed millions of dollars, they're probably going to charge you somewhere between $2,000 and upwards of $10,000 as a retainer. Okay. Now, I know that some people are trying to grow 6-figure firms to turn them into 7-figure firms here. So it's basically the people that are going to help you. The sweet spot for you is probably somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 a month. It's about where you're probably going to find somebody who is that kind of the sweet spot, right? They have enough experience to know what the heck they're doing. They probably have a little bit of experience of like coming up with creative, but they're not they're not the top 1% or top even 5% of advertisers out there, because the top 1 to 5%, they're not looking at you for anything less than $2,000 to $3,000 plus probably some type of like incentive, right? If they're on the lower end, they're going to want something on the back end, right? So if they go low, they want something on the back end that's going to make up for having a smaller upfront fee, right? And then if they don't do that model, then they're going to want a big fee, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 just to be able to run your ads. So that's the range. But the greater question, I want to summarize this so I don't go off on these long tangents because I get really into it, is to answer the question around what the fee should be. The sweet spot for you is going to be somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000. And you're going to want to ask the person, what's your creative process so that we can get through the testing to actually find the winners, and how long is that going to take? Knowing you already know that it's going to take probably 3 to 4 months. So it's going to take you $3,000 to $6,000 worth of just fees, not advertising spend, of just fees for this person to help you dial in your messaging, and probably another $3,000 to $6,000 worth of advertising to actually get to a place where you're actually getting new leads coming in, and you're having opportunities to get people on the phone to get them as clients.
Okay, so just very quick high-level summary of this is Chris is essentially saying sweet spot $1,000 to $2,000 for a legitimate professional. Going to expect potentially something on the back end when things start converting. However, I think the main thing to take from this is twofold. One, how do we make sure that we don't have an opportunity cost by selecting the wrong person? What is their responsibility for creative, and how well defined is that process? And make sure you have answers to those questions, because that's one of the things that they should be helping you with, not just pulling levers, right? Not just going into the ads and just pushing buttons, but actually helping to foster the things that lead to results, which is largely based in creative. The second thing that I want to make sure is clear is that there is a difference between believing that this will be a silver bullet and it's going to rain leads. Like, I get emails from other people saying, oh, this person got like $50,000 and like Facebook ads is so easy. And it's just like, maybe lightning did strike, and that's awesome. But what Chris and I always want to do is paint very realistic pictures, regardless of what we're doing. But specifically for Facebook ads, you need to make sure that if you're coming into this, it's going to be a long form relationship. Chris and I have been working together for close to 6 months now. Okay. And literally within the last 30 to 45 days, we're turning a corner. And I can tell you right now, like, it was frightening in the first 4 months, but I knew I had a guy I could trust, and I knew that we were going to keep testing. And he brought in those expectations that allowed me to understand that, hey, this is not going to just be like an instant win, right? We have to test the message. We have to test the creative. We have to be willing to invest to find something that works. So if you're coming into this and you're going, I got $1,000, like, okay, like I've heard Facebook ads is the answer. You should not be approaching it from that perspective. I'm telling you that right now. You need to understand that you're coming into this from a 3 to 6 month engagement, $1,000 on the low end in service fees, $2,000 on the high end, and then at least that in actual advertising. So again, just understand that if you're coming into this, you should be expecting to spend $10,000 at a minimum over a quarter. And I think that's a very realistic way to look at the math that you'd want to do this for. One more part to that, Chris, before we move past it. What are the red flags in the relationship, right? I mean, because if people aren't seeing results and they're in that 90-day period and they've already spent that 10K in terms of ad spend and maybe they're not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, quite yet. How do you pinpoint what needs to be done, or how do you make that decision from the buyer perspective? What should they be looking for from the service professional that would give them confidence to renew for another 2 months, 90 days, 30 days? What would that be in your opinion?
Yeah, great question. I've always been taught, and I always have this, not always, I don't know when this thought actually came about. I would say probably in the last 2 or 3 years. When you're paying somebody to do a job for you, and this happens for me too, when I've hired somebody to do sales pages for me, or when I have somebody doing video creative for me, and it might take a long time for them to kind of turn things around. There's one of two things, right? If the results are there, you don't really care, right? Like the results are there, you don't care about like how often they're refreshing creative, like how many pieces of creative they're doing. Like you don't care about any of that because the result's there, right? So that's one. Two, if the result isn't where you need to be, is the activity, right? And the communication where you want or need it to be. Meaning, do they ghost you? If all of a sudden, like you go to email them, say, hey, just wanted to just see, like, I haven't seen any leads in like 3 weeks. Like, what's the update? And then it takes them another week to get back to you. That's a massive red flag. Like, if you go to ask a question or you go to call them and then they like don't answer you for a week, yeah, you probably have someone that you probably should try to figure out how to cut ties with them. So either results or activity. Those are the two things you're paying for. Either you're getting the result you want, you don't care how active they are, or they're delivering on the predefined, again, going back to the creative question. Are they pumping out, are they giving you, hypothetically, it's not ideal, but maybe somebody else believes in images. Maybe they're pumping, they define, hey, I'm going to give you 2 new images, and I'm going to take the one video that you created, or a couple of videos that you created for me, and we're going to make them into a couple ads for you a month. So that's 2 images, 2 videos, and we're going to pump out 4 new creatives for you a month with like 3 different headlines. So that there's 12 changes now that need to be put in place. Did they do those 12 things? If they did those 12 things and they implemented those things, and you have the data to like decipher, okay, this is working or this isn't working based on the metrics that the ads person should know about. If they're not doing those things, that's when you should have cause for concern. Are they communicating? Are they talking to you? Here's the thing that I get is red flag that I get super anxious about when I'm like working with somebody. If they don't have new ideas, if they don't have like a new way to like say things, or if they're like, when they, you get on the phone, they're like, well, I don't know what to do next. You have someone that like is probably exhausted their expertise. Maybe their experience says, hey, they've done all the things they know that tends to work, and then like that's it, right? So that would be the red flag for me, is when you start talking to them about ads, they don't have any additional ideas or anything that's like really convincing that they really believe in it. They might have an idea that's like, you can tell, like they're like, I don't know if this guy really knows or girl knows what they're doing, right? Me, like, am I ever short of ideas, Tyler?
I almost wish you were sometimes.
Like I always have, I'm like, hey, I was thinking about this thing, or here's this idea. We could probably do this, right? Like I have found because I hire other media buyers for what I do sometimes. And so like for me, if I have somebody that's working on, what I look for is like, hey, once you've done your first 3 things, right? Like, what's your next step? That's the thing I ask is when the first 3 things that you normally are going to do don't work, what do you do next? And if they don't have a really good answer, I get really anxious about wanting to hire them to be a media buyer for me because, or a Facebook ads manager or Google, because Facebook's not the only thing that I do. I get really nervous to work with them because I need somebody who's willing to like go back to, man, it goes back to what I said, the creative process. So if we've got this creative, brief that you've come up with, that creative brief is going to give me tons of like ammunition, like bullets in the gun to like go and like try to find a thing to, it's like hunting. If you're trying to shoot a duck, like, would you rather have 1 bullet or would you rather have like 20 bullets? Well, statistically speaking, I'd rather have 20 bullets, right? Or I'd rather have the best sharpshooter in the entire world, right? And you probably, again, based on the fee, you probably don't have the best sharpshooter in the entire world. So you want to know that they have at least enough bullets to be able to find statistically something that's going to work for you.
Okay, beautiful. So we've already been on for 45 minutes. I can't believe it's been that long already. I mean, that's crazy to me when I look down at the clock. Chris, I just want to be respectful of your time. We have a few more questions. I think if we kind of rapid fire them, maybe we can get through them. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay, so lightning round. So we've got one. How many times does someone need to see an ad to convert?
What do you mean?
So I think there's the old adage, you got to see something 7 times before it kind of sticks in your brain or you take action on it, right? There's that old sort of platitude in advertising, but someone's saying how many times does the ad need to appear before someone takes action on it?
For one time. Like,
right?
I don't believe frequency. That doesn't really work the same way in Facebook ads.
Okay. How many ad sets would you recommend from Brian Clare when targeting a niche? Should we even bother with different ad sets?
For you guys in particular, I would say you probably are going to have 2 ad sets, right? You're going to have the title, right? Going after like that particular person. And then you're going to have a customer list. So you have a customer list. There's a thing called a lookalike audience. So you're going to take that customer list, you're going to upload it into Facebook, and you're going to create a lookalike audience so you're going to have Facebook go and find people like the 7 degrees of separation or the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, whichever one you know of. It's going to create an audience that is very, very close, within 1% of the same demographics and makeup of that list that you upload. And you're going to run a lookalike audience to that 1% and have an ad set that spends to that 1%. So titles or whatever you're trying to target and a 1%. So just start with 2 because I know your budget is probably, when you're starting out, it's going to be smaller because you're just testing things out. That's how I would start.
Okay. So then we've got video over picture. How can we do video in our ads? Let's be honest with ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be perfectly transparent. There are 2 things that I use to be able to do video in a high quality way. I've got a DJI. I don't even know what this thing is called off the top of my head. DJI something or other.
What is it? Called a gimbal.
Yeah, I forget. Oh, the Osmo is what it's called. So the Osmo, drop your smartphone in here. Like literally you have what you need to do video ads. Like don't overcomplicate it. You don't need to go buy expensive equipment, video over static ads or static pictures every time. That's also a question from Brian. So this one's interesting, and I'm a little hesitant to even ask it. Good strategy for pairing Facebook ads with Instagram ads. Do you see a big difference in how you should approach either platform?
Well, Facebook is the platform. There's 2 channels on that platform. One's Facebook as a placement, and the other one is Instagram as a placement. So placement's where the ad actually shows up, and which feed it actually shows up on. Instagram is tough. Instagram is actually better with images. So most of the volume's on Facebook. Instagram's a nice ancillary thing when you're testing out. For you guys in particular, I'm going to highly recommend that you don't even worry about Instagram until you are consistently spending, $100 a day on lead gen. If you can't get to that place, don't even worry about Instagram yet.
Okay. So essentially reduce the complexity, master one. When you get good at it, you have permission to move to another. And I completely agree with that. Melanie wants to know, I was recently told to use ads instead of boosting a post. So we'd love to get a better understanding of the difference.
Yeah. So great question. So boosting a post is when you're on your page and Facebook's like, hey, do you want to boost this post? And you're like, oh yeah. I'll spend $5 to boost this post. Boosting a post is just that. Like you go in and like you do an organic post, like you do a post on your page, and then basically Facebook says, hey, do you want to boost this? Literally, that's like I don't think I need to get more descriptive of what that is. For an ad, you're going to actually be in a thing called an ads manager. I don't have like obviously pulled up in front of me right now, but an ads manager, setting up an ad is different. It's just in different locations. And so boosting a post is sort of an ad, but it's not. What you don't control there is a thing called a conversion objective. When you're in an ad, you select what the conversion objective is. Essentially, a boost post is what they call reach. So you're just paying $5 to get basically that post in front of as many eyeballs as you possibly can in a short amount of time. Whereas an ad, you're selecting like your goal is to try to get a conversion out of that. You're trying to get a lead. You're trying to get somebody to register for something or get a free opt-in, schedule a free booking call or discovery call with you. Maybe that's the objective. So the difference is the objective and the place in which you're setting them up.
One other just quick follow-up question on that, Chris, is that I think a lot of people, when they think about their Facebook business page, they might have, a couple hundred likes max for most of the firms that I see interacting with in this group. How much value should they be putting on those likes? And when they boost a post, is it going much further beyond the people who already like the page? Like how much reach is it really getting? Is it going to attract more people to their business page? And is there any instances where you say, you know what, boosting a post is a good idea? You can say no.
I can say that in 7 years of running Facebook ads, I have not seen a single person come as a case study that says, I built my business boosting posts.
Got it.
So the answer is no.
Let's keep it simple. The answer is no. Okay. So look, I think I got to just about everything. I have one question from Steve, but I would argue it's probably just a good way to end this particular call. And he says, where and how to start, best practices. And if we just go back to, I think the major messages from Chris here is that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Creative is super important, whether you're choosing to do it yourself, 100% DIY, or if you're hiring someone to help you do it in that $1,000 to $2,000 per month range, be prepared to invest for 3 to 4 months, but make sure when you hire that person that there's an understanding that creativity is a part of their responsibilities. If anything, I'd say it's the ultimate make or break part of that relationship. And then finally, when it comes to targeting, when it comes to being able to run things, when it comes to being able to run ads successfully, broad works, niche is great, but niche has a very limited runtime. And the only way that you get to refresh that is creating more creative, and creative can be something that's time consuming. However, if you have a good person, either through Fiverr for cheap or potentially through your Facebook ads, a dedicated individual, they should be able to prolong the lifetime of a successful ad. And I guess just last thing for our audience here, Chris, when they're trying to gauge success, right? We said, well, if you're getting results, you're going to be happy. How are you helping them to understand, well, you're getting results. Like, what is it that they need to be able to tangibly receive where they go, okay, this is working?
At bare minimum, hopefully you're generating leads. I mean, that's the very foundational thing. Like the sales process, a Facebook person can't know what you're saying on they just are not going to know what you are or are not saying on the phone. So their responsibility is to give you opportunities. And so that's like the preliminary way that you judge the success is like, hey, not what the click-through rate is, not, how much you're spending. Are you getting any leads? Are you getting any opt-ins? Are you getting people to book a call with you? If you're not getting those things, then you figure you need to figure something else out.
Yeah. And I think that this is an important reflection that the Facebook ads individual expert or your efforts, we want to drive leads. We want to drive high quality leads, but it's easy to say, oh, they're bad leads when we don't have the proper sales process in place, when we're not able to properly demonstrate the value of our services. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this is, are you prepared internally to be able to turn on ads? Because when we're talking about the message and knowing the market and being able to be there at the right moment, I did not start my business on Facebook ads. And I'd argue almost no one ever will. This is something that when you have something that's relatively well tuned in, you're able to convert people, you're able to generate interest, you've got your sales process down, you know what your market cares about. All of a sudden you go, wait a minute, do I need more leads to be able to reach my growth goals? And if the answer is yes, Chris Wyatt, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to say. All right. So thank you so much, Chris. Anything you want to leave with our audience as a parting shot?
No, just the mindset. When you're not, it's very, very important that you have proper expectations when you work with someone. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, if you think that somebody's going to come in and be a savior to your business and really take you to that next level without you doing anything, if somebody's promising that, run, red flag, run. But have the mindset that you're looking for somebody to partner with you to run the race together. And that's what you're looking for, is somebody that you, personality wise and everything, that you can like, you're not going down the same path, and you know it's going to take some time, but that's okay, because you trust their process and you understand that they're working to make sure that you're getting a result. And that's the big thing. Just like you care about your clients, you want somebody that cares about you and your results in the same way.
Beautifully stated. Root of all failure is mismanaged expectations. Communicate those to clients, partners, strategic partners, growth partners. Communicate that to everyone you possibly can, and you're going to have a happier life as a result. So again, I want to thank Chris Wyatt for his time that he commits to our business. Hope you guys like our ads. Give them some love when you see them. We appreciate that, or potentially buy from them, help us out. So the point is thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate your time. And last thing, if someone wants to potentially learn more about you, wants to engage with you a little more, what's your sort of thought process on that right now? Because I can already tell some people are going to be like, that's the guy. But what are you going to say?
I am actually not bringing on any clients, so that's not a thing for me right now.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm tapped out, so I'm not available. The other thing I have is paidadstraining.com, but that is, to be honest, it's actually for people who are already advertising. I don't have anything really to say other than this is what I'll do. If people have other things that have a bunch of other questions that they feel like are still unanswered, I'd be more than happy to come back on as a part 2 to this and answer those questions in a live environment again. That's probably the best thing that I could probably offer at this point, is to just help out in that way.
That's beautiful. Honestly, that's a tremendous offer. We really appreciate it. And I guess if you come across any good up and coming Facebook ads people through your paidadstraining.com, I think it might be safe to say that we would take your opinion of them very seriously, and just throwing that out there for our audience and potentially for your blossoming audience as well. So thank you so much, Chris. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on our call on Monday.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
See you.